Okay, here we are then, guys, for another episode. This time we've got Duncan Andrews, aka Freak, on with us today, who is expert in kind of self-protection, self-defense, and more importantly, some of the legal side of it as well, which is often kind of some of the things that are maybe a little bit neglected, perhaps. So I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit as well.
Yeah.
So, Duncan, do you just want to introduce yourself, buddy? Give a little bit of a background to who you are, what you do, etc., and then we'll get straight into it.
Hi, my name is Duncan Andrews, as already intimated there. I was in the police for quite a long period of time, and I was in the army before that, and I joined the police, and I was lucky enough to be selected, went through the training and became a specialist instructor at the Metropolitan Police Specialist Training Centre for public order. So it's doing all things like riots, house entries, rooftop protests, all that sort of stuff. And I got quite heavily involved in the officer safety. It was like unarmed combat side of things, called officer safety within the Met. And I tried to develop it for the benefit of students. Now, my thing was always like, you know, let's meet the needs of the students here. And the problem with police training, it's not realistic enough, you know, and it's not for the fault of the guys and girls delivering it. It's because, and I'll say this, I can say it now quite freely, is that you won't get sued because the training is not fit for purpose. Yeah. Internally, you'll get sued if you get injured during training, and therein lies the problem. So we'd all go, you know, a lot of us would go out and train with other people as we'll obviously unfurl as the interview goes on, for the benefit to try and introduce something like that into the students. So that's what I got involved. I got more reality-based stuff. I played judo for a period of time, but that's more of a sport, I'd say, than a martial art. Oh, it's very good, but it's more sport-based.
Sure.
So the reality stuff as well, I went, and we tried to get that introduced. And I'll update on that as we go through, I'm sure.
Perfect. So
that's a little bit about me. And with the use of force stuff, this is my main aim really at the moment with the use of force. There's so many great instructors out there, but however, use of force is lacking totally within martial arts. I've been to many clubs and seminars and things, and it's just overkill. It is literally overkill. And I think you've got a duty of care to your students to teach them, you know, if you're going over the top, and a lot of things massively over the top for what's needed, you want to put them in jeopardy. I know people say, oh, I'll put my hands up and take it back off. That's not the law, that's just common sense. And that's a cliche now in self-defense. People, you know, this fence, this hands facing forward stuff, you know, all the barristers are onto it and everything. So, yeah, so that's my main aim, is to get the use of force within the martial arts for the police side of things, not just, you know, knowing the law, which is very important, but also the process. Should you get arrested, then you go to court. And therein lies the problem, because there's no such training, to my knowledge, out there at this moment in time.
Fantastic, amazing. Yeah, it sounds really interesting. Let's start at the beginning then. So you said that you started off in the army. What kind of made you want to join the army, and what was your career like doing it in the army?
Okay, when I left school, I got a job working for the electricity board. So I was in the stores, I was out doing overhead cable stuff, I was doing underground jointing, all the big, not like in industrial, all the industrial stuff really. There's no domestic stuff there really.
Yeah.
It was supply chain. And then I always wanted to join the army, and when I was old enough, I kind of went for it, and I got in, and I joined the Grenadier Guards. And I was quite glad. I think my parents were quite glad as well, because a lot of my friends were getting into football hooliganism and, you know, all that sort of bad stuff. And I think it really did save my life, put me on the straight and narrow. Yeah. Then I went all around the world with that really. Then I was going to leave, but I got promoted. So I'm now in a sergeant's mess. So it's all, you see the world from a different point of view there.
Yeah.
And then eventually I came back from Botswana, and I decided I'd had enough. And so I applied to join the police, got in, and the rest was history. From there, I went, after my basic training, I went to Plaistow in East London, which is a great place to cut your teeth as a probationary constable. There's everything going on there. Then I went to the Territorial Support Group. I was there for 6 years, I think I was there. Then I went to specialist training from 2004 till I retired 2018. Got heavily involved in a lot of stuff there. Great job, absolutely best job I've ever had. It really was fantastic.
Yeah, in what way?
It was just because it was real. The training was very real. I mean, it's petrol bomb training, setting all the officers on fire, throwing stuff out of buildings, onto them, bricking them, like proper full-on riots they were. You know, you do Violent Man, where they'd have to come in and get you out of the room, and you could really kick off, and they'd clatter you up with shields and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
It was great. It was really realistic training. and no one minded that. No one, there's a few people got injured, you know, but generally no one minded because it was such good fun as well, you know. A riot, especially for real, is just an unbelievable high. It really is.
I bet.
It is good fun.
So where do you think then? So you just said that the kind of riot police training, the specialized training was quite realistic and specialized, etc. But where do you think that's lacking then in the general police in terms of their training? Why does that translate across?
Yeah, the officer safety thing is because everybody has to do it. Now, to be public order trained, you volunteer.
Okay.
You physically have to volunteer. Now, part of obviously workplace employment law, etc., you've got to train people to be fit to do their job. So they have to do officer safety training. A lot of it is spent on handcuffing. There's a huge amount of complaints against police for use of force coming from handcuffing.
Okay.
But I spend a lot of time on that. And it's, to be fair, it's always on compliant people. When you're training, when you handcuff someone, they're never compliant, because you wouldn't have to handcuff them. You know what I mean? So therein lies the problem. And they're designed to hurt quite badly, those handcuffs. They're great restraining aid. Then batten in or CS and stuff, but people don't take it seriously enough. That's the problem. The people that go, oh, I've got to go off to safety training while we're doing something else. But like I say, you won't get sued if your training is not fit for purpose. The metals get sued if they get injured during training, and that is a huge problem, I think. Whereas if you're a volunteer to do something, you want to do it as opposed to being made to do it. That makes sense. So when I go and train with all the people I train with, I never once complain or turn around and say, oh, you know, I got injured during the training, because I wanted to do it. I've paid money to get punched in the face, pretty much, you know. So, yeah, that's a different thing. That's the problem with it, really. It's the people internally. And also, from my experience, I mean, myself and a girl called Fiona Simpson, we tried to change it for the better, introduce a lot of Russ Jarmusch's stuff, but we just met a brick wall, you know. And his stuff's great, as you know, I'll allude to later on. But with Russ's stuff, it's everything from full-on destruction to tie you up and control you and not leave a mark. You know, it's everything in between. And that's why I love Russ's stuff. Yeah. It's just so fit for purpose in the modern day world for reality-based stuff.
Where do you think that inherent problem lies then with the police, like in terms of their basic training? Why aren't they taking it on board in terms of people that, like yourself, that are saying, you know, guys, this is not realistic now. You're sending officers out onto the street, etc., but maybe they're not quite equipped for the job.
It's my view is it's a tick box exercise. Like you've been, I mean, where I was before, that we had a syllabus to deliver. And in some cases, we had 2 40-minute lessons combined into 40 minutes. So you're playing lip service. And what do I say? If I was, you know, pulled up at this at court or whatever, they say, were you trained in it? I say, well, no, I was shown it. I wasn't actually trained in it. I was shown how to do it. And there's a huge difference. Practice, as you know, makes perfect for anything. But in other stuff, you know, we'd spend a lot of time, the bread and butter, we'd spend an awful lot of time doing a little sort of add-ons and bolt-ons would be kind of rushed somewhat. But that's only because of the pressure of time. That's what was the pressure of time. But the training was fantastic. It really was.
Yeah.
It really was good stuff.
Fantastic. Yeah. When did you decide to leave the police then?
I could have retired in 2016 because I transferred all my military service over. But I stayed on for an extra couple of years from where I was. And at the end of that, at my end of sort of tenure pretty much, I decided that was enough for me. I was trying to get it civilianised, and I spoke to everybody from the commissioner down, and face-to-face to the commissioner. She was all for it, but then obviously it got lost in translation somewhere along the line and never kicked off. So I left. I think I was one of the first to go. Within 6 months, they'd lost like 6, 7 other instructors.
Wow. It's a bit effect.
Yeah, huge amount of experience went to see, you know, to see if this civilianisation was going to happen, and quite a few of us left thereafter. That's a shame. It's a shame, really, but hey ho, I'm in a much better place for now, I've got to say.
Yeah, fantastic.
And I'm a free man. Yeah.
What was the journey like after leaving the police then? Did you find it an easy transition into doing what you're doing now, or was there a bit of an adjustment period?
No, honestly, I missed a few. I missed, what's the saying? I missed the circus. No, I missed some of the monkeys, but I certainly don't miss the circus.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, I don't miss that, having my life pretty much not dictated to, but kind of controlled somewhat. You know, what you can say and can do, and all this. Your life's quite restricted. But now I've got no regrets at all about leaving. I felt quite into it, really, because to be fair, I wasn't really a cop there. I was more of an instructor. You know, we used to go out and get some good jobs, but generally it was more you know, let's empower everybody else to be better. That was what we're there for, really. Yeah.
So,
sorry.
Yeah, go on. Sorry.
Yeah, and then I've worked in the Middle East. I sort of run my own company now. I do lots of stuff out in Germany, doing situational awareness and self-protection training out there, and that's my sort of remit, really. Like I say, there's so many fantastic reality-based guys out there. I'd train with them.
Yeah.
You know, but I was responsible for training quite a lot of people in the police too. You know, I got some good jobs. I got asked to deliver a package for the immigration service. I used to deal with the fraud intelligence team and the evidence gathering team stuff, bespoke packages for them, just to, you know, what they want. I'd ask them what they had happened in their sort of day-to-day duties, and they'd say, right, let's make you a package to fit that, which is, I think it's the right idea. You know?
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
We're going to do this, oh, really? Right, oh, great. It's more pertinent to their role, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Did you find like moving into instructor role quite an easy thing then? Was teaching quite a natural thing to you? And
yeah,
that,
whilst I was in the army, obviously I was teaching soldiers all the time there as well, you know, so it was no big deal really for me. I'm like a frustrated showman really, if I had to get out of the fun.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
What about meeting Russ then? You've obviously said that Russ is quite a big influence and like you take quite a lot of what he's done and things like that. So how did that all come about then? When did you meet Russ?
I was actually on holiday. I can't remember where it was, but it was on holiday, and I haven't got Facebook on my phone or anything, it's just on my iPad. So I should check it in the morning and check it in the evening, just have to scroll through. It's the usual stuff, isn't it? People's pictures of dinners and whinges and moans. And anyway, he flagged up like someone you know. I think it was a video I saw. I can't remember exactly what it was. Well, this looks like exactly what I'm after, to try and, you know, better the police officers' lives. So I sent him a message on Facebook. He said, yeah, come up, we're starting to run a load of seminars. I think it's about 2015, 2016 or something, before sort of Mean Streets really took off.
Yeah.
So I went up there, met him. I went up the night before because I was living down in London at the time. And, excuse me, and he picked me up, him and Zach picked me up.
Yeah.
Went to a pub and I sort of gave him my
business
card. Yeah. Gave him my business card, and it's the first time I've ever heard him silent, actually. So he looked at it and went, like, you either want to shut us down or go for what we've got. I said, I'm here. I said, if you want me to leave, I'll leave, but I'm here for what you've got. And I told him all that. And I just basically, we just hit it off pretty much straight away. Our minds on the same mindset and everything like that, you know. So, yeah, and then I've been training with him ever since. Really have. Yeah. And he's been very gracious. I mean, I'll go back a little bit. When this use of force thing started, Dan, that's what I want to go on to now, if that's okay, is I think a pal of mine who's a barrister, we were training, I think it was a nightclub seminar or somewhere down in London in the O2, and I was teaching stuff, and it was just like, we were looking at each other, thinking, you're going to really put your students in grave danger of the law here. So we did a little input there, and we sort of got our heads together, and that's how it came about. And then we started training with Eddie Quinn, and pretty much the same thing. We had a little work, Eddie goes, right, okay, and as a result now, Eddie, his syllabus for all these new students that come through do a use of force package, and I'll give them that. That's just an understanding of the law for about an hour or so. We go through little bits and pieces. Now, with Russ, I've developed that even further now. So we do the use of force presentation, and that's all the ins and outs of it. And obviously, that's not only just the legislation, but it's also from the police side, you know, or everything in relation to the court procedures, all that. Then the second tier of that is we do scenario training. So I set up a load of scenarios, and people just go in blind, don't know what's happening. The stooges are briefed up, and they go in, and we scatter some of the other students around. Some can hear, some can't hear, some are in just only hearing, some can just see, some can hear and see everything. And then the situation unfurls, and then call it a halt when certain amounts happened, and then go through justifying actions. And I'll say, what did you see? What did you see? And everybody's seen the same thing, but they've all seen it differently.
Yeah.
And that is the problem people will have in the law. I mean, I question them and quiz them and all that sort of stuff. Then the third phase is our next phase, is where myself and my mate who's a barrister, we will go through a police interview. So they get nicked, police interview procedure. So put that through. Then the barrister, he will do his bit, where effectively he will pull their arms and legs off in court. And you'll see, and we've done it before. We do it to one guy, and of course we run for Eddie. And he said it's the worst experiences in his entire life.
See people,
and that's what will happen. You forget that people think they're smart, but these barristers are professionals. They've been doing it for years. If you're up against an old barrister, your life's going to be quite difficult because they've been doing that job for years, and it's experience, and they will just send you down a path. The jury is their audience, and they will send you down a path and then suddenly ambush you from every angle. They are fantastic, and it's quite nerve-wracking to be grilled by a barrister.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, it is. So that's where we want to develop a training. To my knowledge, no one on the market is delivering that training at this moment in time. And like I say, they go hands up and stay away, back off. I don't want to fight. Well, that's an unwillingness to fight, which is great. But then justify your actions thereafter. Yeah. CCTVs are everywhere. Video phones are everywhere. They just drop it's all going to be uploaded and press a button onto the internet. I mean, lip readers can come in, all this sort of stuff. Think about yourself, how many times you've seen stuff on the internet where it's overkill.
Yeah.
It's overkill, and the jury will see that. Yeah. and therein lies your problem. Exactly. So you've got to constantly justify, it is a minefield, and that's what we're aiming to do, especially the main streets guys. I mean, I think that's personally, they're head and shoulders above everybody in this at the moment because we did the amount of training that we do with it all. It makes them better, all-rounded people, I think. Yeah.
Why do you think there's such a disconnect then between people teaching reality-based self-defense and that kind of lack of knowledge, maybe, or lack of teaching that knowledge in terms of use of force, in terms of the after process, the police interviews, the barrister interviews, etc., the court process, etc.?
I don't think it's ever been addressed. I mean, I know there's some people quite knowledgeable of the use of force, but you can look all this stuff up on the internet, it's there. But if I can read a book on brain surgery, but I'm never going to be a brain surgeon, you know what I mean? So unless you've got a practical working knowledge of it, I mean, like I said, when I did the thing for us, we did the cornerstones thing. I said, look, I've used force on people many times, and also I've seen the aftermath of people using force. So I've seen it from delivering it and from seeing it actually having been delivered on other people. And you've got to justify your actions. And we're not trying to trick people out or anything, or maybe in an interview if they're being, if you're honest, it's easy. But as soon as you start telling lies, it's easy to find out they're lies. Just hit
wound up in it.
Yeah, he's just an interviewer. I mean, obviously, we're all trained. How many people are on the reality circuit are trained on how to interview people?
Yeah.
Probably zero, Yeah. Might be a few police officers around, but then, like I say, I was in specialist training, so that's what we did. We're constant about their use of force and justification and quizzing them on bits and pieces. So, and then obviously with David, who's a barrister, I don't think no one else on the market's got that product. And that's something we really need to hammer home to keep people safe. That's what I really think, that more people need to know about that. Because you're doing your students an injustice. Like I said to you, if I want to learn how to write properly, I'll go and see a calligrapher. I might just go and see a bloke with a nice pen.
Yeah.
The person who knows, So that's what we're trying to. That's why I say mean streets, and to a certain amount, Eddie's approach stuff is heads and shoulders above everybody else's at this moment in time because it's part of their syllabus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you were suggesting someone then to learn self-defense or to learn reality-based self-defense, would you suggest then going to something like the mean streets, going to something like the approach, something like that kind of encompasses everything? For someone just starting out that wants to learn just a basic level of self-defense, maybe.
Yeah, I've trained with some fantastic. I still train with a group called CODA. Combatives group. They've got the original Fairburn syllabus. They are the actual lineage holders from it. A guy called Bill Pilkington and Les Martin, who are part of Fairburn's cadre. A guy called Pete Robbins, now unfortunately dead, and Paul Charles still alive. They are sort of the holders of that. They're still massively in contact with the Fairburn family, so you've got that side of things, which is real top stuff. Then you've got Eddie's, who's for a scenario where you've got to go hard and heavy quickly and learn something quickly, that's great. Then for everything else, from hard and heavy through to fold you up in a funny shape and not injure you at all, you've got Russ. And I think Russ's stuff, for me, out of all the people I've trained with, and I've trained with Kelly McCann and loads of great people, Russ's stuff for me sits just above, in some cases quite a lot, but just above everybody else's because it's so encompassing. It's so encompassing, and that's what I love about it, and that's why I think we had a connection straight away because doing bad things to bad people was pretty much how we thought. Keeping good people safe and keeping bad people, making bad people suffer, which is rightly so. Yeah. So yeah, his stuff is there. Yeah, but the answer to your question depends what you want, isn't it? Mean Streets is great, but you got to travel for that, and it's well worth the travel. You've got Eddie's stuff too, if you want just total destruction, pretty much, you know. But then you've got to be wary of your overcook as well. And I think you need an all-round thing. I don't see, to my knowledge, anybody else who's fitting the Mean Street syllabus for everything. I really don't. I know I'm not blowing smoke up a man's ass, but he's credit where it's due, you know. Yeah. I really like his stuff. And I think, you know, let me try to get it in the police. I've had Palomar and Fiona, like I say, we try to get stuff. She's come up and trained with him as well. She thinks it's brilliant, you know. We've just met for Stonewall, unfortunately.
Again, is that just due to the top?
Yeah, exactly that. You know, people don't like having their empire taken away. You know, they try and keep hold of things. Where we try to, more to, right, who's got that? Who's got this? Let's, you know, how can we help people rather than try and keep it for yourself? Let's empower people. Let's meet the needs of the students, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Maybe.
This might be too simplistic a question then, but for someone that's wanting to know the basics of self-defense and the legal side of it, just from a standpoint of what they can do, what they can't do, can you give kind of a summary, I suppose, in terms of what you can, what you can't do? You know, like definitions like proportionality, reasonable force, etc., get thrown around a lot, but to actually hear it from someone that kind of knows a bit more about it.
So, reasonable, proportionate, and necessary. They're the three standards which you'll be judged upon, right? So if you want to find a definition of those, just go to the Oxford English Dictionary, and that's exactly what it'll be. Was it required to be done? Did you overcook it?
Yeah.
And is there any other option you could have done? Basically, is a nutshell. Why did you do it? You've got to justify those three things. Now, for me, I'm 6'6" and I'm 18 stone.
Yeah.
Right. So it's going to be, maybe the jury may well look at me and say, well, look at the size of him. So you get someone who's a 5'2" female, who's slightly built. Their use of force is different. And for women, why is a bloke grabbing you in the first place? I know what I'd be thinking straight away. Why is this man grabbing me? It's not to stop me from falling in front of a car, is it? You know. So their use of force can obviously be hard because of the fear factor involved. Obviously, you've got age and bits and pieces like that, but you need to justify your actions, and I can't tell you how to do that. That's for you to do that. You know, I'll go through it in the presentations, what you need to, how your justification comes about. But then, when this is the other thing you see me doing the use of force stuff is, when does your use of force step over into revenge attack? And therein is a fine line, and the barristers will exploit that to the max.
I was going to say, how much does subjectivity play a role in it? Because, for instance, your overcooking could be different to my thinking of overcooking.
Yeah.
And at that time, in that moment, when your adrenaline's firing, you've all got gross motor skills, etc., you're not going to be thinking necessarily, are you, at that point, I'll stop now, or, oh, am I ever going to cook it, or am I going to do this, or am I going to do that? Like, how much does it rely on the individual, perhaps?
Two things for that come down to training. And that's why the scenario training is massively important, because wash up. I mean, that's what training's for, to make mistakes, isn't it? You know, let's learn. Make a mistake. There's the place to make a mistake in training. We can rectify it. So, like I say, all the witnesses see things, and that's what I say. They'll just drag you into court. Say, this is what I saw. This is what I saw. This is what the CCTV saw. So you individually will have to justify your actions. Now, that's your thought process, how you're feeling on the day, etc. You know, injuries, ailments, all that sort of stuff, who you were with. I mean, intoxication plays a huge role in fights. I mean, what is a fight? It's just two egos out of control, isn't it? You know, if one ego can check it, there's not going to be a fight. You know, that's what it is. It's a clash of egos. So you need to justify your actions, and only training, I think, brings that out. Is the answer to that question. And like I say, it's size and weight and height. Not that it matters. You could be like a big giant bloke, but you could just be like soft as butter, couldn't you? You know, so, you know, but you got this perception, and you could have someone, a 5'2" female, she might be an MMA fighter in her spare time, you don't know, you know, so they put your money on who, don't you? So, yeah, but it's your actions. And this is where the training comes in, because you see people getting grilled. They don't like it. They really don't like it, because they're having their actions pulled into account. That's what has happened.
Does the law take into account any training that you've done previously? Like if you were, say, an MMA fighter, or you were, I don't know, a seasoned black belt or something like that?
that'll come up to the other thing I'll say is, right, let's have a look at some people's profiles on Facebook. Most people have got Facebook account, you see them with their knives out and punching and looking at all these daggers and stuff like that. The jury sees that straight away. What's their picture of you?
Yeah.
You're hung before you've even been tried, haven't you?
Yeah.
So that all goes against you as well. But if you've got some kind of training, and that would obviously come out, if that does come out in court, you can justify it. Yeah, I've done driving course, so I've done this course, I've done that course, so yeah, I've done that. But I believe that my actions were sound and just and reasonable for this reason. Mm-hmm. You've got to convince the jury. The police would just say, when they're doing their interview, yeah, we've got enough evidence to charge you, and you get charged in the CPS and then decide whether it goes to court. If it goes to court, you might be on a sticky wicket. Yeah. Because obviously you've gone through those 3 processes where there's enough evidence to put you in front of court, so they will put you in front of court. And then the barristers will just, some of the, obviously your defence barrister will be quite soft with you, and then the prosecution barrister, they will literally now pull you out of the legs off and nail them into the witness box in front of you. It's like modern day hung drawn and quartering, it really is, but with words. Yeah. It really is, yeah. Yeah, you need to justify your actions. That's it in a nutshell, and that's why training comes in relation to that. And the quizzes, the questions, yeah.
So what's your plans then? How do you want to take this out to people? How do you want people to know about this more? And what's the plans for, I don't know, taking it out and exposing more people to it?
I think I'd like people to come to the Cornerstone seminars if we ever, where it's training.
Again, yeah.
It's just, with this COVID, everything's pretty much on the back foot, isn't it? We don't. I mean, I've been up to Russ's and we trained, albeit very socially distanced and stuff. In your own bubble and stuff. And I did a couple of presentations since, and everybody's sat, a couple of metres apart. He's got quite a big place, as you know. So we do that just to keep people on tick of it. But I think what they need to do is either come to a Cornerstone seminar, if they ever come back up again, or maybe I could run some kind of online stuff. I don't know. That's something I'll have to look into. But that's the current climate, isn't it? For it's because it's not really a physical course; it's a cerebral course for the learning of the law. But the scenario training needs to be physical, and this current climate down there, that's a bit of a problem. But yeah, I like to do that, and then maybe put myself out a bit to get people safe. That's my aim, is to keep people on the right side of the law. It's not only knowing what the law will do to you, and it will nail you up, but also how you can work within it. How you need to justify your actions. And I think that and like we were saying with Russ and Eddie, and that's a huge thing that's lacking in today's world. There's 1,001 ways to hit someone, but there's only one way to beat the law, and that's pretty much not to beat it, but to work within it, is to know it. So that's our aim for that. Yeah,
definitely. What do you think? Do you think there's a difference between teaching martial arts and then teaching self-defense?
Well, I'm not really.
Do they merge, or are they separate?
Yeah, they do. I mean, I wasn't there. I would say I'm a martial artist. I'd say I was more sort of self-protection, self-defense type stuff. So of course they blend because they mix, because most of the techniques come from our martial base, like Mars gone to war. So
yeah.
However, I don't think you should have a martial arts instructor teaching self-protection if they've never had a fight apart from in the dojo. Yeah. Because there's no reality, there's no bell, there's no hajime, there's no precursor to that fight. Boom in your face and let's go, as you know. Go from nowhere and it just all of a sudden it flares up. But even then there's a ritual 9 times out of 10 involved to it, and that's all part of the training as well. You see it, we watch videos and it discusses what's happening there, and then we replicate that in training so people kind of get accustomed to it. That's what it is. Yeah, but so martial arts and self-protection, or reality-based, they do blend because a lot of the techniques come from it, but then it's a lot of range stuff, isn't it? It's that middle range, as you know. So when we got a little club here, we run, a few of us will get together once a week and train, and we say, like, either be out of range or be massively close and down to nothing. And that's where we work out, or really ECQ, like extreme close quarter stuff. Yeah. Don't want to be in that competition range, should we say.
Definitely, yeah.
So that's where we work our stuff from. And it's different. It's all about controlling stuff. And like I say, with Russ's stuff, I'll say his name again, sometimes you get close enough, you just wrap them up.
Yeah.
You train with him, well, that's the end of me, and all I've been in intense pain, and I've got no injuries. And how much easier for you to say when you got, this is what I did. fair one. You ain't going to go to court. You ain't going to get nicked.
Yeah.
You know, if I just poke my finger as hard as I can in your eye and pull your groin out, you've got a lot of explaining to do.
Different kettle of fish there.
Yeah. I was looking at the GBH line and all that. Even if it was self-defence, you've got to justify that, and that's harder to justify.
Definitely, yeah. What's your thoughts on then? Obviously, taking maybe Eddie out of the picture, maybe Russ out of the picture. What's your thoughts on general reality-based self-defence, both here in the UK and abroad as well? Having worked with lots of different clubs, instructors, etc. Do you think the standard's generally good, or do you think the standard needs to be improved?
Who I've trained with has been good,
okay.
But then I see things on the internet, and I think that's, you're a charlatan.
Yeah.
But then the beauty of the internet, I think, Dan, is you can see and you can assess before you actually go along, and you see some videos. It's just oh my life, it's just embarrassing as well, and that will never work. But then some people get deluded and live in this this will work, having never ever pressure tested it. And that's the other thing, you've got to pressure test stuff, haven't you?
Yeah.
But so I've trained with Kelly McCann 3 times now, and he's like, for me, at the moment, he's like the top known combatives guy. There's quite a few well-known ones, but for me, Kelly McCann stuff, he's standing low as well. But then, once again, everything with COVID is just, it's all up in the air, isn't it? It's just a huge problem.
Yeah, what do you think is going to happen to the kind of self-protection scene in terms of both instructors and in terms of students? Then, what do you think is going to happen in the next 6 months? Because obviously, it's such an important thing for people to learn, whether they're kind of frontline, whether they're just doing it for, just for their own personal safety, I suppose. But as you said, that pressure testing at the moment, it's all got to be theoretical, cerebral, as you said.
Yeah, I mean, you got bobs and bags and stuff, but what was it Bruce Lee said? Was it bobs?
Don't hit back.
One version, don't,
Yeah.
It spins around and hit you or something. I just honestly don't know the answer. Because no one knows what's going to happen. I think something's going to have to give in relation to all of this. I mean, what about the second lockdown nationwide now, aren't we? Obviously the COVID's out there, and it's a problem. But I don't know. People are, what I'm hearing and seeing, people are having enough of it now. I understand it's not good, but it's a big mental health issue for people as well. Now that's a huge problem. And like you say, training is a great stress reliever. It's a great
Well, any type of physical activity, martial arts, anything like that's going to be good for your physical health, your mental health, etc., isn't it?
Yeah, and it is a great stress reliever. It's very social. Everybody, even though you're there to sort of knock 7 bells out of each other, you all have a drink and like, oh, that was a good shot and all that sort of stuff. As soon as you hit someone, you feel, you don't, hitting your mate's weird, but you still kind of feel, oh, you kind of stop, don't you? You make sure they're all right, you know what I mean? Because you'll be there to do that, but you want to stop as well. And I think it's a great social thing up there before, during, and after, really. Sit and have a beer and stuff. And those days are gone. You can't go up to the pub and have a beer anymore. Afterwards, sort of, relax and rewind. And that's where bonds and things take place. And that's a big mental health thing. But to answer to your question, I honestly don't know where it's going to go. I honestly don't know where it's going to go. And you can't train online, you can't grade online. That's bloody ridiculous, isn't it? Okay. So you can throw your straw man around the living room, brilliant black belt. Nah, it don't work like that. Yeah. It is a shock, and it is bad for the instructors, the good instructors out there. To make their living that way. It's a hard thing to do at this moment in time. I really feel, I honestly don't know. I don't think anybody knows what's going to happen.
No, definitely not.
Nobody knows.
So your plans for the future then, you've said that, the Cornerstones thing is something you're really going to push forward. Is there anything else on the horizon that you're looking for?
I still do work out in Germany, but that's all social distance now. So we do more the situational awareness stuff. I do for a company out there called Sirius, and they run a lot of industrial sites and stuff, and it's predominantly women. So my thing with situation is where I stand alone. I'm different, I think, because if you can see it happening, it doesn't happen, if that makes sense to you. If you can avoid it, driving your car, see some brake, you brake, and if you just carry on, you're going to plough into the back of them. So it's all about avoidance and being aware of that. And women absolutely love it. It empowers them. We do stuff because not only can you use it in your work life, you can use it in your professional, in your private life too, you know, shopping. I do loads of anti-terrorism stuff in relation to that. I got involved with a religious premises training just before the end of last year, and then obviously that was all sitting at home office level now apparently, and COVID hit, everything's just shelved. Everything is just shelved. It's all stand-up training.
Yeah.
And you can't have it, so it's debilitating. But you know, that's what I want to do. Carry on. I want to try and get back to normal, but then travel restrictions and
it's gonna be a long old slog, I think, to some level of normality again.
I mean, you can still fly to Germany and stuff like that, but it's then getting bums on seats. You know, the contract's still there for me, but it's getting the people. I mean, you go to Germany, you get tested and know your result in 4 minutes.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
wow.
The 6-week wait, and then you have to wait a day once you've been tested. So there lies a problem. But it's a worldwide thing, isn't it? And obviously you've got Brexit, so that's going to affect my Germany stuff. I don't know. Fun times. Keep smiling. That's still all you can do.
That's it. Yeah, just keep smiling.
Upside down. Yeah, that's what I want to do. Try and get back to normal. And then if we do get back to normal in the near future, which I'm sure we will, some kind of normality, that's what I try and get this use of force stuff out there for the guys and girls training to keep them safe. That's the thing. I want to keep you safe. I don't want you to get into trouble, because your life will just take a totally different avenue if you get caught. Even if you get a caution, it goes against your job prospects and all sorts of things.
Well, you hear the horror stories, don't you, of people going out for a pint, having an argument, one punch, smack their head on the concrete, done, brain dead, done.
One punch kills, that's it. I mean, I think it's Lee Morrison. He said, grab them and then fucking hit them. But then how many times you hit them? You know what I mean? Because it's all we're going to say, you know. And if you try to help somebody up who's unconscious, it's really quite difficult. With them, You know, even if they're 5 stone, you know, it's quite difficult.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's good advice, but it is a minefield, and that's what I want to keep everybody safe. And it's ego control. That's like I said on the main street, but we teach all the fighting stuff. That's self-offense. For me, self-defense is not being there and not in. That's the best self-defense you can have.
Best self-defense when nothing happens.
Yeah, I'm Palomar when I was in the army. Said, win or lose, it still hurts to eat your breakfast in the morning. True story.
Yeah, definitely. We've got a couple of questions then from people that are just onto the blog. It's more physical questions. So someone said, would you advocate an open hand strike, or would you advocate more of a closed fist strike?
For me personally, I prefer open hands, only because of the job I did. And I've got really flexible wrists, so if I punch things, I tend to bend my wrists over. And also with the job I did, I need my hands to maybe control them, handcuff them, use batons, other bits and pieces, especially firearms officers. That's my personal opinion. And if you're good at punching, it doesn't smash your hands up, then do it. I advocate open palm strikes. Well, Baz Rutten does as well, doesn't he? You watch his videos from his early days, he was on bone strikes. I think he alludes to it in one of his videos that he says, use this bone strike. It's just immense power, and you can still use your hands. But that's something for you to train. See how you get on. If it hurts your hands, use a bone strike. Yeah. That's what I would say. But also, thinking about that in video footage and still photography, an open palm strike could appear to be like a push or a slap, etc. So I like to slap it, as opposed to a punch it. There's a huge difference. Albeit, I think bone strike's pretty much more powerful. Definitely. And also the still photographs, it shows, with the beauty of a still photograph, and also against it, it just shows a snapshot in time. It doesn't show the before event, it certainly doesn't show the after event, it just shows that small snapshot in time. So if that comes up, that's a different thing. But you'll save your hands, depending on your profession. If you're good at punching, you've got good knuckles and punch. If you haven't, like me, or bendable wrists, slap them.
Someone else has said, for a female perspective then, what would you say is a good way of, this may be difficult kind of over a video, but a good way of defending against a rear bear hug, either static or being dragged as well?
Well, there's two things that there's arms in and arms out, one arm in, one out, 3 arm in, like that. You've got to work on the fingers, so wrap into the back of the hands. Women, if they can get their hips off to one side, slap behind an open palm, grab the genitals, rip and twist, pull them out. But that the knuckle would bend a finger back, all those sort of instantaneous pain, snap, and then start working the groin, turn around and maybe chin jab them. Chin jab will finish most people off, I think. A good chin jab. Yeah, that's training, isn't it? See what works for them. You know, there's 3 options there straight away.
Yeah,
buying the whole lot. You know, rack, turns, grab, rib. People still put their arse away from you if you strike someone's genitals, and then you've got a space to escape them. Yeah, that's what I would do.
And then the final one, then someone's asked about reach. So obviously yourself 6'6", and then me 5'6". Your reach is going to be quite a little bit comparative. Like, it's going to be a bit of a difference going on there. So someone's asked how would you combat a height difference?
Right, okay. This is quite a difficult one for me to answer because it's not. I've only got one pal. Who's
not really a problem for you.
There's an inch shorter than me, right? That's the difference. Like, he's a bit heavier than me. So what we do, because when I train with the guys at the clubs and that, and I put my arms out, and we just basically slap the arms down and clear them or push them out of the way, some kind of like circle drag, that sort of stuff, clear that, get the space. And like I say, we work out of range or massively in it, you know, right in it. Like we say, like getting a t-shirt with them, you know, you're that close and you're working in close, then that's when you can do your strikes. Yeah, range has got a huge thing, so stay out of it. Come in it or learn some kind of arm clearance drill to get in. I mean, like Eddie stuff, smash the hand down, get out of the way, just knock on the knuckles, finger strike to the eyes. That sort of stuff's available to you. Or if they've got a longer reach, they're generally going to be taller than you.
Yeah.
But if you can get under and you're good at some kind of takedown, one single leg and dump and trip and all that sort of stuff. There's options for you. Duck down, backhand, slap into the genitals, bring them straight down, come back up, maybe chin lip to take them down. There's a multitude of options. You just play with them. That's what you got to do. Get someone with a good groin guard on who's taller than you, and just drill it, and find what works for you. Then drill it till you own it. That's my advice for that one.
Perfect. Last one then. Someone said, "What's your opinion on ground fighting? Whether fights should go to the ground, whether you should keep it standing?" I'm
glad you asked this. Now, if you can, obviously try and stand up. But if you don't know what's going to happen, there's a quote on that is made up or not. But like a lot of people go to the floor, and it does go to the floor, you know. Yeah. And especially in my job, you want to get people on the floor. It's easy to restrain them if you're above them. With that, we did some training at work when I was at the specialist training centre. We did it in a dojo, a beautiful dojo, a lovely padded floor, padded walls. And we was doing all stuff for the judo days, like working around the body, holds, turns, transitions into handcuffing and locking stuff. Brilliant, worked great. We all drilled it off. Then we went outside and did it on the concrete. We got about 10% of it off. Right. And therein lies the problem. So you see, like my mate Dave, who's the barrister, he said he went to a seminar once and there was a BJJ guy there. And I was going round and I was asking, how would you do this? And apparently Dave said the BJJ guy went, I'd get on my back between 2 cars. David, you're an idiot. He said, you're going to stamp all over. No. He said, no, you know, you've got to train it. Train it on the mats, brilliant. Go out on the grass, go out on the gravel, go out on the concrete, then do it. Don't work so much. Yeah. And that's reality based. You know, don't kid yourself on it's going to work. Yeah, you can't bridge out your head and your elbows and your knees can't take it, you know, especially on gravel. Jesus, it's agony.
Scalp yourself.
Yeah, well, yeah, with your elbows and your knees on gravel, as you know, like you kneel down to do some screws up or something and be out.
Yeah.
Whoa, it's only your knee. So you don't really need, yeah. So train it soft, go out, train it on the hard, don't work, bin it, try something else.
Perfect. Yeah.
That's what I think about that. Yeah. If you can stand up, you can. Get away. Don't fight. Control your ego. Don't fight. Best self-protection there is.
Perfect. Cool. Amazing. Thank you so much, Duncan. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Witted on too much for you.
No, not at all. No, it's really interesting stuff. So yeah, really appreciate it as always. Thank you, mate. And hopefully, the cornerstones will be happening soon, and we can get back to some semblance of normality. And hopefully, I'll see you at Russ's place at some point, and we go.
Yeah, hopefully so.
Stuff and learn some stuff.
Yeah. Good luck. Thank you very much. Cheers.
All right. Cheers, Duncan. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, cheers. Take care. Bye-bye.